Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Boruto Anime episode review. This one is going to be for episode 50, which is called the Chunin Exam's recommendation meeting. And unfortunately it's our first kind of filler recap episode, I suppose, which I think the main thing that's very unfortunate about it is that it is episode 50, any other number and it would have been like relatively okay, but just they did it for episode 50 for some reason. But for it being a recap episode, it was actually a fairly okay one because while there was nothing too fancy going on with the new bits of animation that we did get, we got a decent amount of new voice acting, and because it was from all the team captains basically, it meant that we got like their opinions on basically the series up to now. So Udon, not being particularly familiar with kind of what's happened in the series up to now because he's been busy, whereas like we've seen Moegi involved in some things. Konohamaru's been there for a lot of what's happened. Shino's been there for a lot of it too. So getting those opinions were very interesting to just kind of see that, like, oh, here's Udon's opinion on like his team and where they've come from. Here's Moegi's opinions on Inoshika Cho and so on. When you really break down the episode, I think the only notable thing to come out of it is just the doubts from Konohamaru about recommending Boruto, and I suppose his team overall, and everyone's concern about this new generation. The point Konohamaru made, I thought, was interesting to a point, but it sort of felt like they were really trying to force this dynamic that wasn't really present in the series, of just like they haven't faced like outright power. They don't know what it is to just be like completely overmatched. And like, yes, sort of, but like then they show a clip of the Kakashi moment, which was basically that, like, yeah, Boruto can't actually like defeat Kakashi, and it was just about him like learning something from that experience. So I think they're aware that there are shinobi out there who are just much stronger than them, and it's just that they are very, very skilled compared to previous generations. And like I get it what they're trying to do, in that the previous generation, they had a lot of struggles, I suppose, before being recommended for these exams, so they were maybe a little bit more kind of battle hardened, because they do bring up the point. I think this was the one kind of more valid part of this, in that when you become a Chunin, you are technically the rank of being able to kind of captain a squad yourself, and being in that leadership position and having to basically be responsible for everyone on your team, injuries, deaths. That was an interesting point, in that they're basically saying that when you become a Chunin, like, you're more or less fairly close to, like, say, Udon's level or something like that. And are they ready for that? And that's where maybe you'd be like, okay, yeah, some of them aren't. Maybe one or two of them are more suited to it just because of their kind of mentality. Maybe some of them aren't quite ready just yet. But it wasn't really that big of a point where, like, oh yeah, this is actually a worthwhile episode to like watch multiple times because of they get into this like really good detail on this stuff. They don't really. They just kind of play out the fact of like, oh look, here's all these positives that Boruto has. Like, even though like he's a prankster and is getting into trouble a lot, he's also like helped bring together this kind of group of like characters. That he helped Iwabe, he helped Denki, he helped Sumire, and has really more or less sort of formed the teams in a way kind of around him. That's how kind of strong of a character he is, that he has the same sort of dynamic that Naruto has. Plus, he's skilled in nearly everything possible. But I think just the point they're trying to get across is that, are they too skilled and they haven't faced the threats on the level that maybe they should have? But I feel like they constantly sort of contradict themselves by showing recaps of stuff like the field trip arc, where like they faced, you know, some pretty powerful shinobi. Their first mission as like a team, where they faced a rogue shinobi and beat him. In that, like, I think everyone pointed out with that arc where it was just kind of like, okay, it's smaller, it's not as big as the Naruto Land of Waves arc, and what they did there, but it's close enough to where it's just kind of like, that was a crazy incident that was notable. This one isn't as big, but they still handled it relatively well. Um, Similarly, like with like the Byakuya gang arc, that was a pretty crazy situation, and they came out of it. And I think what really signified it as a kind of episode you shouldn't really care too much about was when they really just put it down to luck. That like Konohamaru fundamentally blamed it, like, oh, but they got out of all these situations, but it was just luck, and it was just like, is it, when you basically just praise the characters for being skilled this like whole episode? That's where I had a little bit of an issue. As I said, the fun in this episode was just the interaction between like Konohamaru, Moegi, Udon, and then Hanabi when she came in. That was actually really fun to just have like Konohamaru and Hanabi have just this huge praise session for Boruto, because he kind of calls them like big sis and big bro. And obviously like Hanabi's related to Boruto, so there's that as well. We didn't really get her thoughts on her team, so I kind of would have liked it if Hanabi was included more in from like the start of the episode, to just, I suppose, more complete the dynamic that this episode was trying to get across. But it was fun enough in the end. I suppose people are shipping kind of like Konohamaru and Hanabi now, just kind of because of that. Not really sure if they're going to lean into that at all, but you know, I assume at some point as the series progresses, like we'll get into that, like that era of kind of characters will probably have relationships at some point to set up what's coming next. But not too much else to really say about this one, because it was just a recap episode. As for like the recap part of it, I sort of appreciated it in that, like, I haven't had a chance to like go back and rewatch the series from the very beginning, so it was fun to get like mentions of all of these things that have happened, like the first episode thing, the Thunder Train, kind of some of the details of like the new arc, the little incidents that have sort of helped to shape the group into what they are right now. Nothing crazy, but like it sort of like helped to be like, okay, I can sort of see what the recap episode is for, how it can be of help to some people. Like, if you haven't been following it super closely, kind of like I have, I can see where there's some benefit to, like, oh yeah, this episode has helped to, like, really focus me on, like, where we are right now, where the characters have been, where they are now. But, yeah, that's the episode. That's my review. Thanks for watching, and bye.